Obviously, a big game. Anytime you have rivalry games, they're huge. Just for everybody, especially when you have an in-state rivalry game, a lot of bragging rights for all the fans, and people take a lot of pride in winning the game and having that the bragging rights for that year. So I think our guys understand how important this game is, and how much it means to fan bases and of both schools, and what a big game it is for all of us. So we got to come back, have a great week of practice. Obviously with Thanksgiving holidays, we'll continue kind of our schedule that we do, where you accelerate a little bit, but there's also some more time because there's less school when school gets we get out of having classes later in the week. So we'll tweak the schedule around a little bit that way, and hopefully have a great week of preparation and go follow it up with a great performance on Saturday.
Nick's first Egg Bowl as a quarterback. What have you seen from him when you look in the final game of the regular season from where he came from in the spring, where he was trying to compete to win the starting job?
Well, I think he's progressed, done a very nice job within his progression, and you watch him just being more comfortable making throws, making his reads, going through things, playing with a little bit more confidence, with discussions when he comes off the sidelines, a little bit more confident in what's going on the field. And, with the quarterback position, all of that, it just comes with time when you're developing as a quarterback. I don't think you can ever get enough game reps and just enough experience. So, but I think he's done a nice job of moving forward and being a better player today than he was at the beginning of the season.
Rich has obviously been the leader for the linebacker group over the past few years. What have you seen from juniors like Diz Harris and J.T. Gray and their development, and what their future might be?
They're coming along. Both of them, they've both had different routes on their career. J.T. having to play as a true freshman a little bit, be it accelerated that way, and Dez suffering through some injuries in his career. But both of them are great attitude, hard-working guys, and so expect them to continue to progress. And we need those guys. They're the leaders of the future. They're the leaders for us for next year. So we need those guys to step up and be ready to be leaders next year.
When you went back and watched the film, what issues did you see from the defense on Saturday? Was it schematic, or was it personnel, a little bit of both?
Yeah, there was a lot of issues everywhere. But we didn't fit right. Misalignment, some poor communication, missed tackles. So just not a very good performance.
Coach, over the last couple of weeks, what do you see on Jay Patterson and how well he's managed the offense for Ole Miss?
Yeah, he's coming along. I think he graduated early, so he got to go through a spring practice, got to go through a training camp, got to go through a season, and got his opportunity to get on the field. And like anybody, anytime you're given an opportunity, you want to make sure you do your best to take advantage of it. And I think he's done that.
Talking about that defense, Dan, I know the last couple of weeks, probably not the best performances and things, and I know it's been good teams and all, but how much of a chip do you think is on their shoulder this week after the last couple of weeks giving up so many points and yards?
Well, we'll see. Hopefully a lot. I thought we played a really solid defensive game against Texas A&M. Gave up some just explosive plays the last 2 weeks, though. So, part of that is just not giving up all the explosive plays and making sure just being disciplined in what we're doing in our fits, and then making the tackles and winning the one-on-one battles.
You talked about Patterson's practice in the spring. How did that help Nick as graduating early and then getting that extra spring practice compared to some other people?
Well, I think it always helps. Anytime you graduate early, especially at a quarterback. The opportunity to go through spring, it's your first time kind of learning a system. And you learn it, the installation and everything you go through spring is going to be a slowed down version of what you do in training camp. So by getting the opportunity to go through a spring you're kind of starting to learn the language. I mean, a lot of this stuff is, it's new concepts, it's a new speed, it's a different game than what you're playing in high school sometimes, and then you're learning new language and how to deal with it all, and you get a little bit of a slower process going in springtime to kind of digest it. And what it allows you to do then is over the summer, as you're doing summer studies and preparing for the season, you've kind of already learned it once, and then when you get into training camp, you learn it a second time, and you're actually starting to feel comfortable and know what's going on. I think a lot of times, that first spring for young players, I mean, they're just trying to survive and just trying to figure out what exactly is going on. But all of a sudden, they get into a training camp after having a spring. When you go to install it, it's their second time kind of learning it, and they start getting a grasp of it.
Rod Green, I think, started the last couple of games for you all at tight end. What have you kind of seen from him? What did he do in practice maybe to get that starting spot over Justin Johnson?
He's just done a great job, in his performance and grading out of practice. Justin's still done a good job, and they both play. So, but Farad, I think, really just stepped up his game and made plays for us, and in the run and the pass game.
You talked about a lot of misfits against Arkansas, especially against the run. How hard was that for you to watch being this late in the season to see those mistakes being made?
Well, you don't always like that, but they're very different fits than we've had in other weeks because they're a very different style offense. So every week brings its own unique challenges.
You've been on both sides of the outcome of this Egg Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
What does a win do for it, and what does a loss do for it? How have you seen the program
Well,
kind of react?
a win makes you happy. A loss makes you sad. I don't know that there's much beyond that to be. I don't know that it makes when you go out on your alumni speaking tour in the spring a lot more fun when you win. It's a lot less fun when you don't. And but as far as effects on the program, I don't know if there's a massive effect one way or the other.
Kind of jumping off of that, how is this matchup where both teams are kind of fighting for the postseason with a potential win compared to maybe 14 where there was an Orange Bowl and maybe a Sugar Bowl in the balance?
I think the game. I think one of the things that's happened. Not to downplay the importance of the actual game itself and what it means to people, but I think there's been times where really this is all there was just this game. I think over the last couple of years, both programs have done a great job of raising their level of play and what they have to play for, and all of a sudden, that both teams have been playing for bigger things, and I don't mean to say that to lessen the importance of this game, but I think just how the successes that both programs have had over the last couple of years has not made this game maybe as much of like an all or nothing game that it maybe used to be for both schools.
Ole Miss has had their own share of struggles this year in certain areas. What do you see from them that makes them dangerous in your mind?
They're like everybody in this league. You got to come up and play your A game. I think we've done the same. They've been having to deal with some injuries. We've dealt with tons of injuries all year long, and I think the depth of teams in this league is what makes it so tough, especially the West. And you see it that I think they're an excellent football team. Had to play a tough schedule. You come out and a mistake here or there. I'm sure if you look back, if they said, hey, we could change 3 plays on our season, we'd have a very different record. I know we can say that if I just changed 3 plays on our season, we'd have a very different record right now. And I think that margin for error when you're playing in the SEC West is so small.
For Richie Brown, it's his last regular season game, 50-year senior. he almost seems to be the identity of this program evolving and getting better each year. What has he meant to the defense and the program as a whole?
You know what? All of those guys. I mean, it's always tough when you see. I mean, you're proud of what they've accomplished, what they've become. Rich is a guy that's working on his master's degree. Has had a very good career, and to me, what is these young men made a decision 4 or 5 years ago to believe in you, believe in your program, and believe that you can help develop them, to become, as I say, champions in life, not just football. There's so much more to it than just the game of football. I know on the outside a lot we're judged on how many games you win or lose, but on the inside you're judged on how you affect people's lives and develop young men to be successful. And so I think I take a lot of pride in that. And Richie's a guy to me that shows that he believed in us. He believed in our program. He's had a very successful career as a football player on the field and a very successful career off the field with all the community service work that he'd done. He's now married. He has an undergraduate degree and working on an MBA, and is going to be very successful, not just in the short term, but in the long term of life, hopefully.
I think Freeze said that Evan Ingram was questionable before this week, but if he does get to play, what kind of problems does he present, and do you consider him a tight end or a wide receiver?
Well, that's the thing is he's a tough matchup, and anytime I think if you look, offensive coaches, and they do a great job with their offense, is trying to you're always trying to create your mismatches. How do I get my player on your player? And when you have a guy that is a multiple position player, they're tough to match up with because he can do the things he needs to do as a tight end physically, but has the athleticism of a wideout. So that's what makes it a tough matchup. If you try to match him up as a wideout, he's got size on you and physicality on you. If you try to match him up as a tight end, he's got a lot of athletic edge on people, and they do a good job moving him around and taking advantage of his skill set.
Coach, looking at Ole Miss on defense, what stands out about them? What have you seen on film?
Well, they're still, they've been athletic. They're a very athletic team. They get after it. Their defensive front gets after it with a great deal of speed. And they're athletic. The linebacker position. They're not the biggest team in the league, but they certainly. I don't think that's really their style. Their style is to play a very aggressive, fast, speed-oriented defense, and they put a lot of speed on the field.
Any update on Brandon or any of the guys that missed last week, if they'll be available this week?
Yeah, Brandon, we expect to be back for the game this week. So hopefully Logan's better by the end of the week. We'll know there'll be more of a game time decision for Logan. But Brandon, we expect him out of practice again today.
Martinez Rankin came in with a lot of expectations, the number 1 JUCO tackle. What makes him go from that, role as a number 1 guy kind of coming in into an actual starting? What needs to happen to become that starter?
Well, a lot of development. Like I said, the recruiting rankings really don't have a lot to do with your ability to play. They just have a lot to do with your recruiting ranking. What you have to do is come and work once you get, I think maybe some of the rankings look at maybe potential. Like I said, some are really easy to see, and say, hey, that guy's spectacular. That's not hard to see. But I think a lot of those guys, it's the transition from the recruiting to actually going in and putting in the hard work, putting in the time physically, putting in the time mentally, putting in the time with your technique to learn the position and become a great player at that level, at the next level. But that's constantly happening. I'm sure there's high school coaches out watching the Pop Warner fields and saying, hey, I can't wait to get this guy on the roster. But if they don't develop, they don't develop. And there's, the same thing goes from high school to college or junior college. And then a lot of it goes from college even into the pro ranks, of you're kind of rated a lot on your potential. But if you don't show up and go to work every day, and develop, you're not going to improve.
This will, of course, be your 8th Egg Bowl, I guess. Do you
It's a lot.
do you think you approach the game any differently now than you did, say, 8 years ago? Is there anything at all that changes in your approach to it and stuff?
No, I mean, obviously, I think I'm sure I've matured as a coach throughout the last 8 years, right? I mean, I'll be and grown as a coach, but I think you're always doing that. So, but I not really. I think I think early on, I mean, in getting into coaching and started to learn and understand the importance of rivalry games and what it means to everybody. And so that, you always treat these weeks just a little bit different, I mean, and I don't care what rivalry you're in, I mean, you'd be Notre Dame, USC, you'd be Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, and, played and coached in Bowling Green, Toledo matchup, Utah, BYU. I mean, you look, Auburn, Alabama this week. I guarantee you both those schools, it's just a little different feeling. Around the office, around the building, around your preparation, when you're playing the big rivalry game, and it just always has a little different feel to it. I've always understood that. I understood that, I think, coming in year one, and hasn't changed for me to this day.
There's an outside chance that the bowl eligibility is still there with the APR and the 5 and 7 teams maybe getting there. Do you talk to the team, or how much do you tell them about that, or is that just kind of in the rearview mirror?
No, because it's not something we can control. So I don't worry about. I try not to worry about things you can't control. I mean, if that happens, it'd be a heck of a deal, right? I mean, I wouldn't. I'd be happy to go. I bet I'm sure our players would be happy. I think everybody knows I'm such a proponent of the bowl system and what it means and all of those things. And though people say, hey, should 5 and 7 teams get to go? I guess you can make that argument in tradition too. But just the general bowl game experience, I think, is just tremendous for all the student athletes. A tremendous experience for them. So, but I don't know. Someone came and if the phone rang and invited us. I don't know that it's my decision. I'm sure it's above me, that decision, but I know I wouldn't say no.
Is it John Cohn's decision, an SEC decision? Do you even know where that?
I haven't even thought a bit about it, or how the process even goes of, I guess, there's a pool of eligible teams, and then the bowl. I wouldn't even know the process. Like, do you fill your... Would we fill an SEC slot? Do you fill an outside slot? Do you fill this or that? I wouldn't even know how any of that worked. I wouldn't mind trying to find out, though. I'd take a win and maybe look into it. We get a win on Saturday. I will start looking into it that night.
Coach, what would a win mean to this team after the season?
Well, it'd be huge. I mean, you look. To finish, to finish the season on a win is so important to me, because you don't play again for 9 months, or 10 months, or however long it is, or 8, depending whenever your last game is. And so, I mean, one, for the people that have, these young men that have put so much into the program, for their last experience to walk off the field with a win is a pretty special memory. For the guys for all of us still here, to spend to be coming off a win in your last game, going into the next season is just a great feeling for that time span, because you don't get it. Tough thing is, you have a tough loss like we did on Saturday. You get to get back to work on Sunday, and you get to go try to change it around, 7 days later. After this game, you don't get to play for quite a long time again, so you don't want to be stuck with that feeling in your stomach.